You know, it's funny how life sometimes throws you into the background where no one really sees you, and then, out of nowhere, the past comes knocking like a ghost you thought you'd left behind. That's exactly what happened to Margaret Shun. Maggie, as she was called, spent her days standing on a scorching military airfield, blending into the endless bustle of planes, officers, and ground crews, wearing a bright orange vest that marked her as just another security contractor, invisible, unimportant, forgotten. At 42, Maggie was at least a decade older than most of the young security officers who walked by, some sneering, others mocking quietly, thinking she'd failed at a real military career and ended up stuck in this dead-end role. But Maggie knew better. She had been a captain once, a covert operator, and though the uniform was gone, her discipline hadn't. Her back stayed straight, her eyes sharp, scanning every hangar, every vehicle, every face with a precision that those around her simply didn't care to muster. One blazing afternoon, something shifted. Maggie noticed a maintenance truck approaching a restricted hangar without proper clearance. She flagged it on her radio, but her supervisor brushed it off. Scheduled maintenance, he said. Yet Maggie's gut told her otherwise. The truck's driver looked uneasy, scanning around too often, license plate mismatched. A few minutes later, the sergeant himself chased down the vehicle, confirming Maggie's suspicions. Unauthorized personnel tried to breach the perimeter. No surprise there, Maggie's keen eyes caught what others missed. But this was just another day of being the quiet watchdog no one wanted to hear. Hours later, the announcement crackled over the base loudspeakers. VIP arrival. 4-star General William Hayes was coming. Suddenly, the entire base snapped into high gear, officers shedding their casual attitudes, preparing for a visit that was far from routine. Maggie got her usual assignment. Checkpoint 7, the furthest point from the action, a place for the overlooked. Some young officers joked about her front row seat to history, but Maggie just nodded and moved on, knowing her place. From her distant post, she watched the base transform. The honor guard rehearsed, senior officers polished their medals, and the general's convoy rolled in early 3 black SUVs, moving silently toward the reception area. When the tall, silver-haired general stepped out, cane in hand, every inch the soldier despite his years and injury, Maggie's heart gave a flicker of recognition. She was no stranger to this man years ago. In a war nobody talked about, she had led the team that pulled him out of certain death. But here, she was just a nameless face in a vest. As the formalities unfolded, Maggie's radio buzzed with routine checks, but her attention never wavered. Then came a moment, brief and nearly invisible to others, when the general's gaze locked on her. No words, no recognition allowed, just a flicker between two people who shared a buried past. Maggie stood still, expression neutral, but inside, years of memories rushed back. The next day was tense. General Hayes had requested a full security demonstration, every checkpoint under scrutiny, every officer on edge. Maggie's sector was quiet, but her eyes never relaxed. An unauthorized surveillance device she'd found the day before still clung to a fence post, a silent witness to the secrets buried within the base. When a maintenance worker tried to access the relay station without proper authorization, Maggie challenged him. He grumbled, but backed off, and the base security command confirmed Maggie's suspicions the man wasn't on the schedule. Later, the general's convoy circled the base, stopping at each checkpoint. When they reached Maggie's post, the tension was palpable. Colonel Richards, the base commander, introduced Maggie to General Hayes, who inspected her with a mix of intensity and something deeper: shock, maybe disbelief. Maggie answered every question about security protocols with the precision of a soldier, revealing concerns only someone who'd lived on the edge would notice. Gaps in the fence, potential blind spots, and the ever-present threat of unauthorized access. Then came the unexpected. The general asked to tour the perimeter with Maggie alone, dismissing protocol and the senior officers who usually accompanied him. As they walked side by side, came tapping softly on the pavement, the general acknowledged Maggie's vigilance and adherence to protocol. He revealed the real reason for his visit: a security breach at the base, unauthorized surveillance, compromised classified communications, and a deep suspicion that something dark was unfolding right under their noses. Maggie listened quietly as the general spoke in hushed tones about the shadows cast by agencies that operated beyond oversight, about deniable operations and erased histories. He called her by her former rank, Captain Margaret Shun, and told her that officially she was dead. A casualty of a mission so secret it didn't exist on paper, a mission that vanished from records after her team had extracted him from hell itself. They had given her a new identity, scattered her team, and buried them all in silence. And yet, here she was, assigned to the very base where classified information was leaking, where surveillance devices lurked, and where someone was running an unauthorized operation, possibly using former covert operators like herself as pawns or worse. The general didn't ask for blind loyalty, he asked for help. Help to uncover the truth, to find out who was behind the breach, and to shut down a shadowy operation before more lives were put at risk. He promised recognition from Maggie and her team, formal restoration of their records, their honor, their forgotten service. For the first time in years, Maggie felt a flicker of hope. Later that evening, dressed in a sharp Navy security uniform instead of her usual vest, Maggie took up her new post inside the command building. The corridors buzzed with tension as the general met with base leadership behind closed doors. When he emerged, he ordered Maggie to escort him back to the VIP quarters, a gesture loaded with meaning, a signal that the past and present were finally colliding. In the privacy of the general's quarters, the truth spilled out. Operation Shadowfall, the mission that never officially happened, the team that was erased, the lies told to bury them all. Maggie recounted the betrayal with quiet strength. They had been used, then discarded, and the general had spent years trying to expose the truth and fight the forces that had silenced them. And then the bombshell. The maintenance worker Maggie had confronted was no stranger. His face matched a guard from the compound, where Maggie and her team were held captive. The infiltration went deeper than a simple leak. It was an operation within an operation, and Maggie was right in the middle of it. The general's words hung heavy in the room. By the time I leave this base, Margaret Shun will exist again. The promise wasn't just about clearing her name, it was about reclaiming a life stolen by secrecy and lies. As Maggie slipped back into the night, the weight of what lay ahead settled over her. The mission to uncover the truth would be dangerous, maybe more dangerous than any battle she'd fought overseas. But this time, she had an ally who understood sacrifice, who'd stood where she stood, who knew the cost of being erased. And somewhere deep down, Maggie felt that after all these years, after being invisible, dismissed, forgotten, she was finally coming back to life. So what do you think, folks? When a system hides the truth, who gets to decide what's real and what's erased? And when the ghosts of the past return, should we welcome them or fear what they might uncover? Share your thoughts below. Is justice served when it's buried? Or does the truth have a way of breaking free? No matter what? Let's talk about it.